Hey everybody, I'm Paul back here at the AI Engineers World Fair, and we're filming podcasts on site with some of the best AI leaders. I'm here with Hursh, co-founder of the browser company, and we're in the browser booth. So I feel like it's the perfect place for us to chat about AI and browsers as everything's going on. For those who haven't met you before, don't really know about the browser company, can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm the co-founder and CTO of the browser company. We've been around about 6, 7 years. We originally started in 2020 to build a new kind of web browser. We built the browser Arc, and that became sort of a favorite. It's still around. People love it. A lot of people come up to me just like saying how stoked they are about Arc. And about a year and a half ago, I started working on a new AI browser called Dia that's focused more on productivity and work. And so, and both are doing quite well.
Yeah, how'd you get into this stuff? I mean, I think it's pretty esoteric to build a new browser. Where was the first step in?
Yeah, totally. So we started this company pre ChatGPT and AI, and at the time, a lot of we were trying to figure out what is an interesting surface for us as a design-oriented and consumer tech DNA company to really flourish and experiment and push the boundaries of interaction models. And a browser just seemed interesting because it was so boring. Like browsers were so boring, hadn't really been innovated on from a UX perspective. And we felt like as a tool that you use 40, 60 hours a week, and that has just such a large user base, 4, 5, 6 billion people use browsers. We felt like we could just innovate there and hopefully make people's days better. And so that's what Arc was born out of. And now with AI, it feels like browsers are more important than ever. It's the surface through which you do a lot of your interaction, has the most context. And so we wanted to explore what an AI browser would look like.
So do you think that user interfaces are going to go away, or what's the future of humans using the web alongside AI?
A lot is going to happen to the web over time. We'll see. So far, it's people are still in their browsers all day long, using the web applications they use every day. In terms of user UX and interfaces, I don't think interfaces are going anywhere. It's just higher bandwidth to see an interface than a chat stream as it's coming in. They're both going to coexist. I don't, we have a very specific take on what that looks like, but I don't know what's going to win in the end. Will there be user interfaces and more interaction, more sort of dynamic visual elements added to chat? Will they sit sort of next to chat as chat is going on? But I don't think we're thinking interfaces will go anywhere. It'll just be melded in with chat as AI products get better over
Yeah,
time.
I always think about this. Like my mom probably won't stop using Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for a long time, and my belief is that it's going to take a generation of learning and change to really change how people use consumer technology. So it's a huge overhang to climb to really change that, and instead augmenting it, which is what you guys have done with your new browser Dia, of being able to not only just have a browser that everyone loves and uses that might be reinvented, but also have AI capabilities built in. Tell me more about what Dia does and how you're augmenting the people as they browse.
Yeah, sure. So because the foundation models change so quickly, we've gone through a whole journey as well on what DIA is. Now, as part of Atlassian, we're really focusing on how do we make people more productive at work and make them better at the jobs they do every day. And so less focused on, hey, how do we automate away your work, but rather figure out what is the most important thing you're doing every day and how do we make that 10 times better. And so a lot of that happens to be within the browser because that's where knowledge workers work. And so us figuring out what are the flows we can help with, when can we pop up at the right times, how do we manage your to-do list and your projects and everything such that we have enough context about what's going on and we can sort of predict and help you with the next tasks as they come up. Really to have this thing you can both delegate to, but also levels you up, gives you feedback. Really as an interface company, it's us figuring out what does that mean in this new world with this new Play-Doh that we have.
Yeah, and I imagine it's always a moving target as models get better or they change and the tools they need change. How do you, as someone who's building on the applied AI side, actually work with the models as they change and even have a roadmap if we don't know where things are going to be in 6 months?
I mean, that's the fun part. It's so much fun whenever the new models come out. I think it took us a while to get to all of the tooling and capabilities. How do you build evals in this new world? How do you get the right context? How do you replay things? What are the right traces? How do you do online and offline measurements? That took us a while to build up. How do you distill? How do you get the costs right, et cetera? But now that we have the toolkit, it's much more play and prototyping. So on a weekly basis, when the new models come out, as we have new ideas, as we figure out how we can provide more value, to get more user input as well and feedback from our core persona that we're building for. It's a lot of experimentation, trying new things, seeing what works, seeing where there is value, and then having a pipeline pipeline to ship and deploy those features.
Yeah, and the long tail is so long
Yeah.
for browser tasks. I mean, it's probably quite hard to eval everything and know what happens. What methodology you use? Like, how do you know, there's going to be a random website, some part of the world that might use DIA, and you can't predict that. What are you thinking about different types of basic elements on a page, or what's your evaluation philosophy?
Yeah, that's such a great question. We've been through a whole journey with this. I feel like when all these new tools came out, we used to like, what's our framework for this? How do we get the right data, et cetera? Now I think we're going back to our roots and realizing it's just a lot of talking to users and fixing problems that they have. It's actually the same skill set it's always been when building products. It's finding a core user market you want to serve, talking to them a lot and sitting next to them and like understanding and hearing their woes, and then using this new Play-Doh, building features and products that solve their problem that they're willing to pay for. So it's back to the basics.
Yeah, it's a beautiful product development loop, right? Like, get users, they use the product, they give you feedback, you get more users, they use the product, and they kind of like, a better product begets more users, begets more feedback, begets more product. It kind of is like this constant iteration cycle. What's the next thing that needs to be solved to really see an inflection moment for the use of the agentic web and maybe DIA in particular?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one addendum I'll make on the getting more users and user feedback is now there's another loop of like, get the right evals and training data, et cetera. Right. So it's a sort of simultaneous loop, obviously, of the feedback itself and figuring out where you want to go, but then also polishing the features, hill climbing, et cetera. So that's new. And that's been interesting to sort of lean into and work with. In terms of what needs to be unlocked, our take is there's just a massive capability overhang on these models. The models are just capable of so much now, in that even in Claude Code or Codex, I realize every day I'm not pushing these models enough. They're capable of so much more than I think with each new model family. And so as far as we're concerned, it's really not a capability issue. The models are plenty capable. For us, it's just finding what are all of the use cases, where are all the tasks that can be done, what is the right interaction mechanism and interface for this thing, and then how do you build the right loop so that you can hill climb on quality so that people can start to depend on this more and more, and actually use it in their daily life and feel like it's worth whatever you're charging for it.
This is exactly what I'm giving a talk on after this, on the capability overhang in computer use models. And I agree, the models are certainly good enough. Fable 5 back out today, which is super exciting. It's more about the harness we build around them that unlocks them. So the browser company is based in New York, which is more and more becoming the second tech hub for AI. What's it like building a cutting edge AI company in New York City? And is New York better than SF at this point?
I don't know about better. They just have different flavors. Okay. We've been a very sort of New York vibe company from the beginning. It's in our name, browser company in New York. I think we've really gotten a lot of being out of this sort of epicenter. It's allowed us to tap into other ways of thinking and other ways of designing that are maybe novel and let us explore a little bit of a different path than other tech companies. But I'm here, we're in SF right now. It's the epicenter. So it's important to balance both. This is where a lot of the newest stuff happens, and you need to be here to have the right conversations. So I think we found a nice balance of it, and we really like being out there and sort of representing that culture and that way of viewing the world. But also this, SF is the center of AI.
When you think about the culture of a new company building an AI, how are companies changing? What needs to be different as you run or build a company in 2026?
Yeah,
being AI native.
Wow, it's a really good question. We've again gone through this evolution ourselves. A lot of the way we ran earlier actually fits AI very well. We never really roadmapped or planned far out. We don't use ticketing systems that much, for better or worse. We just prototype, and has always been a prototype focused company. So that's actually more helpful than ever with AI, because now with modern coding agents, you can just build stuff. You don't have to sort of like talk about it and think about it as much. But certain things have changed. Our teams are a lot smaller now. On any particular initiative, there's 1 to 3 people max. We don't have like bigger than 3-person teams on specific tasks or prototypes or work streams any longer. We also have sort of changed the roles people have. We have this model behavior team that is focused on prompting, evals, prototyping, et cetera. They're traditionally not technical backgrounds, but they're shipping code and vibe coding, et cetera. Our designers are shipping code. Our engineers are out there talking to users and prototyping, et cetera. So the roles have really mishmashed together, and the teams are a lot smaller than they ever were before. And then headcount wise, we've tried to stay the same for the last 3 years and really finding leverage through better automation, more agents, giving humans more leverage rather than growing headcount.
Yeah, one of the cool parts of the browser company's engineering that I've read about is the generative building of the browser, and actually the custom framework that you guys built to actually generate the interfaces and actually generate parts of the browser code in kind of a higher level way. So it seems like you're not only reinventing the organization, but actually the fundamental technology you have. This is not a VS Code fork. This is something much deeper that you guys are building, and you thought that from the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of our, the way we oriented around building the browser, because we're a small team, we have 40, 45 engineers. And so there was also a question of like, okay, how do we build a really sticky and interesting, well-designed product that makes people feel something? But also, how do we build it in a way that gives us a lot of leverage and allows us to move a lot faster? And that required us rethinking the abstractions on top of a browser so we could build quickly and really maintain it with, one or two engineers on a rotation instead of an army of engineers doing Chromium upgrades, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's always been in our DNA out of necessity, just like we didn't have the headcount and we didn't have the time. And certainly now in AI land, that's been really helpful because those same abstractions are really helpful when you're thinking about agents maintaining and automating these systems. So we're still leaning heavily into that and trying to figure out, okay, how can we spend more tokens and really avoid human maintenance cost and point the humans at what's the next thing? How do we prototype? How do we figure out what the future looks like?
So I have to ask, as someone making, a really big browser, a lot of impact, is the web dead?
We have a very specific take because we've always focused on the web as an application platform and less as sort of I sort of think of it as Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. Web 1.0 was kind of like articles, recipes, the broad web as a whole. That web, I mean, certainly the foundation model companies haven't done a great service to that web because now, like, I think a lot of that usage, for better or worse, I don't think it's necessarily a great thing, but it is happening, has moved to a lot of foundation model company ChatGPT usage. Web 2.0, I don't really see going anywhere. I'm in Slack all day long. I still use my email as a UI interface. We use all of Cowork, et cetera, internally. And the model quality is getting there, but I still like the visual interaction model and using my email. Now, maybe that interaction model will move into a chat interface. Like nobody really knows at the moment. But we don't really see Web 2.0 going anywhere. It'll just be augmented with these work AI assistants that can work alongside you and take instruction.
So you're saying we won't have to rebuild the web. We'll just teach AI to use it, similar like how it drives on the roads around us in a Waymo.
Yeah, actually, that's a great analogy. Waymos are very similar. I think, we'll figure out what workflows move over to these agents that we delegate to rather than us interacting with the web and web apps directly. But web apps are really well optimized. We've tried to build so many flows throughout the years of like managing your calendar, making invites for you, et cetera. And actually, when you're using a web app, there's a lot of micro interactions and little ways that you want to influence, like see somebody else's calendar, see how they're doing, and little decisions you make even about like, what should the calendar event title be like? There's a lot of micro decisions that go into that as you're typing that in. And so it's not that won't be automated. It's just the bar is really high and it just doesn't seem like it needs to be. And so at least we've found, I don't think web apps are going anywhere for a lot of stuff, but I think a lot of what AI does is grow the pie. A lot of our focuses were things that were entirely not even possible before that are now with AI that, you'd want your work AI agent to do, rather than thinking about what are menial tasks that I'm fine, just doing with the existing UI.
Yeah, I have to imagine that there's just so much long tail work that might not get the attention. And the web is really the bridge to the real economy that AI has an opportunity to serve. And our roles within our respective companies working on browser technology for AI is to accelerate the diffusion of AI to that real economy.
Right.
The small bank in Vietnam, or the logistics company in South Africa, or the lumber procurement company in Mexico. These people might not benefit from MCPs or APIs soon, but they're certainly using PHP apps with forms.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully maybe they're using Dia, maybe they're using an agent. They're going to get a lot more of their work automated in the future and see the benefits of AI that we see every day here in San Francisco and New York.
100%. And now, you know, we're acquired by Atlassian last year, which has been a great relationship. And it's so interesting going to the enormous conferences they have and talking to all these customers. And they're like little banks, you know, in Australia, lumber companies, you know, accounting companies, et cetera. And they just have such a different view of like what technology is capable of and a different opinion about how much they should be learning, what the interaction models should be, what are the problems they want solved. So we have a long way to go on the actual diffusion. And my bet is in 2, 5, 10 years, as that diffusion happens, the software is going to look very different than what sort of the AI companies have out right now.
Well, here's the building for the next 2, 5, or 10 years. I certainly can do this for 100 years, I think. Hirsch, it's been amazing to have you on the pod today. We're very
Thank you for having
appreciative
me.
and hope you have a good conference, okay?
Yeah.